Chicago Tonight, Black Voices is made possible in part by Fifth Third Bank and by the support of these donors.
At Fifth Third, we believe when diverse voices are heard and empowered, communities are made stronger, lives are made better, and the future holds greater promise for all. That's why we're proud to support Chicago Tonight Black Voices. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can drive change.
Happy New Year and welcome to Chicago Tonight Black Voices. I'm Brandis Friedman, and thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. This evening, a look back at some stories from the past year. So on the show tonight, a local psychologist talks about the strong Black woman's mental health in her new book. Concerns that the Metaverse, Facebook's virtual reality world, will inherit the company's problems, including leaving marginalized people behind. A Chicago public school football coach makes history as the first Black woman to enter a male-dominated field.
I love how when it's placed on my shoulder, it's close to my heart.
And this young violinist is just one of dozens receiving grant money to pursue their careers. She shares her passion for music and how she plans to pay it forward. First off tonight, a provocative conversation about how breaking intergenerational cycles of pain takes self-examination and self-love. We spoke with author Inger Burnett Ziegler. She's a licensed clinical psychologist and associate professor at Northwestern Medicine. Her book, Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen: The Emotional Lives of Black Women, breaks down the internal experiences of stress, trauma, and the unacknowledged emotional suffering Black women have faced for generations, while also offering a new way of being strong. We started with Burnett Ziegler telling us why she wanted to write this book.
It was clear to me that there were far too many Black women in deep emotional pain and simply not enough people paying attention to it. And that pain is rooted in a variety of factors. It's rooted in generational family trauma, people who are confronting everyday racism, sexism, and discrimination, feelings of rejection by being denied opportunities that Black women know that they have rightfully earned. And, knowing that we have to carry so much, that we're expected to not only do it all, but do it all on our own. And these feelings we're carrying around internally like a ticking time bomb, and they're eating away at us. They have real significant impacts, not only on our mental health, but also our physical health. We know that stress and trauma are closely related to physical health and extending from that our life expectancy, whereby Black women have a 3-year shorter life expectancy than white women. And so I wanted Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen to show the other side of what strong Black women show the world. And by doing that, offer the space to pay attention to these difficult emotions that many of us are experiencing and open the door toward receiving the necessary support that we need.
And we're going to talk about the strong Black woman moniker in a minute, but I wanted to mention I made it to page 2. And I read something that was familiar to me as a Black woman. You mentioned your grandmother telling your mother telling you in different words, life ain't fair, so don't expect it to be. That's a quote. The version of my family was, who told you life was fair? Why do we pass this tough love on through the generations?
I think that we are trying to teach our young girls that life as a young Black girl, as a young Black woman, as an older Black woman is going to be tough. We're trying to toughen up our girls so that they will have the tools that they need in order to be able to survive, to get through society. But by doing that, we're not honoring those emotions that are also a part of that picture. We're not paying attention to the sadness, to the depression, to the anxiety. And by teaching girls only to be strong, we're also kind of minimizing and dismissing those other feelings that may be lying below the surface.
Now, you know, we often hear about the strong black woman, and you mentioned it a minute ago as well. Two things. Why do we feel the need to add the word strong? We're obviously black women. But can that also be a point of pride in the face of adversity?
It's absolutely a point of pride. I definitely, have held being called a strong black woman as something that I'm proud of. And it's really many of the strengths that we so deeply admire in each other, the way we hold our heads up, the way we're able to be resilient, the way we're able to overcome difficult circumstances, to kind of make a way out of no way, and, be able to deal with hard times. But the other side of that is avoiding and denying, what's happening on the inside. And, that's what I offer in this book, Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen, is that we can be proud, strong black women, but also allow ourselves to be vulnerable and acknowledge the difficult experiences that we've had, acknowledge the emotions that come with that, the way that it impacts our lives behaviorally, the way it impacts our relationships. And in doing that, we can move out of a space of shame and isolation and build community in understanding and open ourselves up to receive the community support and resources that we need.
Have you noticed in the black community, has there been a recent shift to destigmatize mental health?
I absolutely think that, this is a pivotal time in terms of talking about mental health, particularly in the Black community. I think that celebrities that are speaking out about their mental health are playing a critically important role in that. People like Michelle Obama, Meghan Markle, Naomi Osaka, Serena Williams, Beyonce, these women who are beautiful and revered, who are also talking about difficult times that they've had. And, when people do that, that really gives, the everyday Black woman permission to be able to acknowledge her own suffering and to know that she's not alone, and that there are other people that are going through the same experience.
The book is also part therapy. There are parts where, you tell the readers to ask themselves certain questions and identify certain traits or feelings. What are you providing there and hoping that folks take away?
One thing that I wanted to provide is to let people know what the signs and symptoms of some mental health challenges look like. So often we talk about trauma and depression and anxiety, and we throw these terms around, but people don't necessarily know what that looks like in their individual lives. And so I wanted people to be able to see that through real examples, to be able to acknowledge any signs or symptoms that might be showing up in them. And in doing so, be able to reflect, this is something that I'm going through. I have difficulty sleeping. I have difficulty getting out of bed. I'm finding myself irritable and on edge and afraid to leave my home. I'm having crying spells and deep sadness. And by recognizing and acknowledging that in ourselves, that awareness is the first step toward making behavioral change and for reaching out for support.
Okay, we've got about 20 seconds left. What do you want people to take away from this book? Why should they read it?
Our mental health, addressing our mental health is urgent. The time for us as Black women is to do so is right now. We are not alone, and we can be both strong and vulnerable, and our vulnerability does not mean weakness.
Okay, congrats to Ingrid Burnett Ziegler. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And again, that conversation was from earlier this year. The book is called Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen, The Emotional Lives of Black Women. And up next, Paris Schutz and a recent conversation about people of color and technology. Stay with us.
Facebook rebranded this past fall as Meta, leading the way into the Metaverse, which is a virtual reality vision for the future. While CEO Mark Zuckerberg is trying to create a new digital world, some are worried that the problems of Facebook and the internet will transfer over, like uncontrolled hate speech or biases in algorithms. One writer argues that to create an inclusive new technological world, people from marginalized communities need to take the lead in shaping it. And joining us to talk about this and more more is Brea Adeyemo, a doctoral candidate at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Brea Adeyemo, thank you so much for being here. And first off, for our viewers that aren't in the know on this, explain what the Metaverse is.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Sure, I appreciate that question. So the Metaverse is essentially a network of virtual environments where people use avatars, which are virtual representations of themselves, to interact with other people on the platform, but also with digital objects as well. And so it is sort of envisioned as this next generation of the internet, as CEO of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, has described it. That is immersive, embodied, which is what the current internet currently doesn't offer us. So it's sort of this next level, next iteration of the internet, where we will be more embodied, more immersive, and really be able to interact with one another, similar to how we interact in the physical world, but also quite different.
And you wrote a column recently online saying that as a Black woman, the Metaverse scares you. How come?
Well, one of the things that concerns me about the Metaverse is this historical relationship between race and technology. Unfortunately, racism and technology has historically gone hand in hand, and leaving marginalized people to often suffer most from the unintended consequences of new technologies. So algorithms are written by humans, and as we know, humans are inherently biased, and that can seep into the way that coders frame the analysis that underlines their codes. And so these AI software not only mirror the biases and the inequalities in society, but also sometimes make them worse. And so we see that in algorithmic bias in screening job candidates and determining creditworthiness. For instance, the software used by banks to predict whether or not someone will pay back credit card debt typically favors wealthier white applicants. And it's not just that algorithms are biased for me, but that they are biased in opaque ways, which means that we're not able or we're not aware of why we might be seeing certain ads on Facebook or other social media, or why, or even aware that we might be missing out on particular ads, or why we might be getting lower home appraisals, or why we might not be approved for financial loans. And so those are some of the reasons why this historical relationship between race and technology concerns me about the Metaverse.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, with respect to Facebook, the algorithms determine what kinds of posts you see, what kinds of advertisements you see. So with respect to the Metaverse, Brea Adeyemo, what do you think would be a more inclusive vision in building it?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things that we might begin to focus on is how we design algorithms, or the values that we put into these technologies, which is what I mean in my article by creating a more democratically accountable technology, right? Is that we want to be able to imbue these technologies with values that are just, so that our algorithms promote equality rather than inequality, or that they promote justice rather than injustice. And I think by focusing on how we design these technologies, one might be having more diverse design teams. Another aspect might be to focus on how we approach, or what values we approach design with. And so I think that by focusing on that, then we can have a better algorithmic future, if you will.
Do you sense that Meta as a company and Mr. Zuckerberg are listening to these concerns and perhaps incorporating them as they build out this Metaverse?
Well, I definitely hope so. I think that right now with their rebranding, they have an opportunity to show us that they are listening to us. I think that with their focus on the Metaverse, they have an opportunity to show us that they have heard our concerns and that they're taking them quite seriously. So we will see how the future unfolds with the Metaverse, and what Meta, and specifically with its Facebook platform, what it plans to do with the concerns that we've expressed.
And Facebook has very well publicized problems with regulating hate speech and disinformation on its platform. Does that make it very difficult to win back trust, especially among marginalized communities, as it creates this whole new virtual world?
Yeah, well, trust has to be earned. And I think that Facebook has lost a lot of trust from the public over the years, because the company gets a lot of pushback, for often prioritizing profit over people and essentially over its social responsibility that it has for us. And so I would say that Meta, again, with its rebranding, with its strong focus on the metaverse, has an opportunity to regain the public trust.
Well, there'll be a lot to talk about in the years ahead about this metaverse. And our thanks to Brea Adeyemo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
And we're back with more right after this.
A Southside football coach has made history as the first black woman to lead a boys football team in the Chicago Public League. And she's making a difference on and off the field. We first brought you this story in early December. Here's another look.
Good job, good job, good job. Let's go.
Kanisha Ray, also known as Coach K, is the new head football coach of the DuSable Panthers, a high school football team comprised of students from Daniel Hale Williams Prep High School and Bronzeville Scholastic Institute, both located at the historic DuSable campus. She took over this year after school leaders decided to make some staffing changes.
To be honest, we probably weren't even looking internally at the program when we decided we might have to make some changes to the program. It was the players that stepped up and said, hey, if this is what you guys are considering, we'd like you to hear us out.
The players advocated for Coach K.
Once we heard that we ain't had no head coach no more, we instantly brought up Coach K.
She got the job, moving from assistant coach to head coach. She's now making history as the first black woman to lead a Chicago Public League boys football team. It's a glass ceiling Coach K didn't even realize she was breaking.
It was a friend of mine who pointed that out. Two friends of mine, when I went to Chicago State, they pointed it out, and I said, no, I can't be. And they're like, you are. And so it's an honor. It's kind of scary being the first, but I have a lot of great mentors, so I'm okay.
Coach K isn't the only one breaking the gender barrier. While traditionally a boys' team, over the years, girls have started to join.
It's open to girls, and I've gone and look, ladies, I played, so I've even worn my Chicago Force football jersey here to let them know, hey, you can play if you're a girl. Don't let that be a deterrent.
I wanted to be on the football team, because, as a girl, gender don't mean nothing,
Coach K says her focus is on her players and building the team. That includes recruitment, which can be a challenge.
The principals gave me the phone list, and I was texting parents saying, hey, I'm Coach K. We have a football team. We would love if your, insert the daughter's name, the son's name, would be interested in coming out. And I got replies. We got people to show up.
Williams School Principal Julinar Naselli says it's that dedication that's brought the DuSable football program more stability and consistency. In the past, coaches have struggled to get enough players on the team and to get them to stick around.
Unfortunately, we've had some coaching turnover several times within the past few years. And despite that, and despite the size of the team, this is one of the few years that we've actually finished the season with all the players and had a complete season.
And it's not just on the football field. Principal Naselli is also noticing improvements in the classroom.
Their academics increased. Their code of conduct concerns practically don't exist.
Performing well on and off the field is something Coach K makes sure to instill in her students.
I'm teaching you the fundamentals of the game that will equate to, life lessons.
She tough on us, Even though she a female, I know how people be about that stereotypical stuff, but she tough on us. So just like any other coach, off the field, she like a mother to us. She give us, you feel me, the love and stuff that we need.
She like a second mom to me. Like, if I ever needed something, she'd be there for me, just like that.
As a coach, she never gave up on us. No matter if we want to lose the game, she always pushed us harder.
The DuSable Panthers had a tough season, losing every game. But they're already looking ahead to next year and thinking of ways to get better.
Next year, I guess we're going to practice more during the summer, hang around each other more, practice on the field, so we can be prepared for next year.
And as for Coach K, well, she's planning to take her team all the way.
We need to go to state. We need to win. That's ultimate to be able to bring another state championship to Chicago Public Schools, but to even be able to compete for the state, state playoffs, to make it to the second round of state playoffs would be amazing for us.
This season was also a record year for girls' participation, with 4 girls joining the team. Dozens of Chicago artists are receiving a total of nearly $1 million in cash grants from the Chicago-based nonprofit 3 Arts. The organization, which supports local artists of color and disabled artists, awarded 10 people with $30,000 this year, and 8 of those artists are Black. One of those recipients is violinist Caitlin Edwards.
My name is Caitlin Edwards, and I play the violin. I started playing the violin when I was 8 years old in the 3rd grade. My 3rd grade teacher called my household and talked about this free group string class that was sponsored by the Music Opportunity Program in Birmingham, Alabama, going to different elementary schools and offering these free group lessons. And I was like, yes, of course I'd love to get out of math class and go learn how to play the violin. And I fell in love with it. I love the tone of the instrument. I love how when it's placed on my shoulder, it's close to my heart. So I feel like I can truly just sing through my instrument and express, whatever I'm going through, however I feel. I'm classically trained through and through, but my music, gospel music, neo-soul, R&B, hip-hop, Black music, that's part of my culture, that's part of who I am as a musician. So when I go to these spaces, I try to bring all of myself to these spaces, fusing those genres together and truly being, who I am as a musician.
Caitlin tells us she hopes to use some of the $30,000 to create a mentorship program to support young musicians. She also just released her first solo album titled Exhale. After leading her team to its first WNBA Championship win, Chicago Sky star Candace Parker is capping off her 2021 by being voted Female Athlete of the Year for the 2nd time by the Associated Press. For this week's The Last Word, we revisit the place where Parker's ascent began, her high school, Naperville Central.
She loves Chicagoland, and I think she really wanted to come back and make it happen here, kind of for her where it all started.
It was really amazing. I feel like it was just an amazing moment for Chicago in general, and for Candace too, like to be back in her hometown and help win a championship for her home team.
Because she's like well known and she's like an alumni here. So usually when people ask me what school I go to, like if I play basketball, like when I tell them I play basketball, they're like, oh, you know Candace Parker?
I think it's kind of surreal because she grew up in my town, went to the same schools that I did. So it's inspiring for me just because I know I have the same opportunities that she did to possibly go as far as her.
Seeing them win the championship and how excited they were, it really made me excited for our basketball season, and it made me think about how I could be better as a player. And I just felt proud of the team and as the city as a whole.
Candace Parker is one of the nicest 3 players we've ever had. It was so phenomenal to have her here. I mean, obviously the most talented basketball player I've ever seen, let alone coached. And her love for basketball and her desire to work hard, that's a pretty 3-pronged lethal combination. That's why she's as good as she is.
She knows where she came from, and she comes to give back, and she enjoys watching the girls play and excited.
To see somebody from Naperville and a woman go through with her team and win that, it's just almost like proud to see somebody like that win.
Usually a lot of people don't watch women's basketball, so I think Candace kind of laid out the blueprint for that and got more people into watching women's basketball.
I feel like before it was hard because obviously everyone watches the men's league, but now that I feel like with Chicago bringing home the big win with the women's team, I feel like it's really helped make it a bigger deal around here.
I know it's inspiring to my current players, for them to see that set your goals, set your dreams, and work hard to achieve them.
Yeah, I think it like motivates me to really do my best and know that hard work pays off in the end.
Obviously, growing up as a girl, I really want like my talent to be shown, and I want people to like understand that just because I'm a girl doesn't mean like I can't play at that level.
I think Candace influences me a lot, as well as my sister. My sister came through here and played basketball for Newsmom as well. And since she is African American, it kind of gives me more hope that there's something like better for me in the future. So like it kind of like paves a pathway for me as well.
Ann Parker has known how it feels to be the champ. While at Naperville Central, she led the girls basketball team to the state championships in 2003 and 2004. She was also chosen as Gatorade's Player of the Year, not just once, but twice. So good, she does everything twice. And that's our show for this weekend. Join me and Paris Schutz next week at 7 on Chicago Tonight. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight Black Voices, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. Happy New Year, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that supports free educational initiatives in the legal profession.